And then I wanted to make sure I ask you about marketing. So when in the process of a book do you begin actively marketing it? And then what have you found to be the most useful techniques of marketing that you've used so far?
Oh, I don't know if I know a lot about what's useful. I can tell you what I've tried. Marketing kind of overwhelms me. I think it overwhelms a lot of authors. Um, I don't know. I'd like to hear what your tips are, because it's tricky, I think, with middle grade, because with middle grade, the gatekeepers are the teachers and the librarians. And so you can't really directly market to kids, at least not easily, I don't think. And so I started, like, for the first book, I started doing lots of social media stuff probably about 6 months before Kazu came out, the first book. I went on some blogs. I did a blog tour around the time that she came out, and then I started to schedule school visits in my area. And yeah, so most of what I've done has probably been social media. And I did a pre-order campaign, but I've heard that those aren't super successful, especially like with middle grade, because you're not actually getting your target audience. You're hopefully at least hitting teachers and librarians. But I've learned a little bit better about what hashtags to use to try to reach out to more teachers and librarians on Twitter. And this isn't something that I do before a book comes out, but it's something that I've started to do, one, because I care about the cause, and two, because I think it gets the right followers on my list. And so every month I'll have a book giveaway for teachers and librarians mostly, to follow and retweet. And that's my addiction, is like finding good books. And so back in the day when my kids were younger, I tried to create this huge library for us that we could have in our basement. They could come and take these books and read them and then put them back. And now they're older, and so I don't have anybody to really get books for. So I love to look for secondhand books that are in really good shape. Or sometimes if I have an arc, or even if I buy a book and I've read it and now I'm ready to give it away, although that's kind of hard, I'll make a stack of books that I offer as a Twitter giveaway. And so I feel like that gets me the kind of followers that I'm looking for, the teachers and the librarians. And then hopefully they're paying attention when I tweet about, Kazu too. So that's something that I've done that I feel like at least it works to grow my audience to the right demographic. And then I love school visits. I'm not sure how successful they are, but I love them because I love interacting with kids. I love interacting with potential readers and just kind of soaking up that energy, because I think it helps me as a writer of middle grade. Getting into schools, I think, can be hard in the beginning. I've been able to get into quite a few schools locally, and then I did some school visits in Utah. So yeah, I'm always looking to follow other writers who do that well. And so I partnered recently with an author. Her name is Janet Sumner Johnson. And we did school visits together. And that was really fun because I felt like I could learn from her approach on how she delivers. And then I did a signing with her, and she had all these fun games that she had kids play, and they loved it and they had a ton of fun. And I thought, oh, that's brilliant. So I think it helps too to kind of watch other writers and to see what they're doing, and not to be embarrassed to admit that you don't have it figured out and that you can learn something from one another. I think that's super helpful too.
So how did you go about approaching schools and pitching yourself as an author to come and visit?
So at first I tried calling and tried talking to principals, and that didn't work. Usually the secretaries, because the secretaries I think are trying to buffer the principals and not overwhelm them with too much stuff. And so sometimes they'd let me leave a message. Sometimes I would leave them a message, but I hardly ever heard back. So then I started to try email, and I felt like that wasn't working really well either. So I started to show up, and I had a little bit more luck. like showing up and talking to librarians. I found out that they're usually the ones that are scheduling the school visits. Usually, not always, but usually. And then I got most successful when I just posted on Facebook. I'd like to do school visits in the area. Do I know any teachers? And so usually my teachers would be like, oh, we'd love to have you come to my school. And as soon as you have an in with a teacher, I feel like it's so much better. And so like in the beginning, I feel like I was just shooting in the dark. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I realized that in making a connection with my bookseller at Barnes & Noble, we only have a Barnes & Noble here. We don't have any other bookstores, which is sad. Barnes & Noble is great, but it's sad that we don't have more, indie bookstores. But when I connected with my bookseller, she was like, so I interact with teachers and I can send them your information or I can give you their information. So it just helps for me to have that connection within the school and to be able to say, so-and-so, or sometimes I've had friends that totally arrange my school visits and they're like, okay, you just have to show up on this day and 45 minutes and they'll be ready for you. And so that's nice, or at least to have them give me a contact, and that's been helpful. And then, like I said, my bookseller, who she's always kind of like, so this school would like a school visit, so that's helpful too. But it's trying to figure out how to arrange them so that they're, not just fun, but they're also beneficial to you, and they like streamline into an event, either a signing or they do pre-orders so that you can sign books there, but something that helps do more than just entertain kids, but also kind of help to, bolster your career a little bit too. So that's been tricky for me to figure out.
So have you been able to get people to agree to buy a certain number of books, or is that still being negotiated for how that's going to be?
That's the tricky thing is my area is used to, there have been a lot of authors who have come in here for free. And so they're used to just having authors come for free. They're not used to pre-orders. And so when I presented with my friend Janet, she was like, we need to do pre-orders. And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. But you could tell that they weren't used to it. So I think it's just probably going to take some time. I think that I'm going to start to say that unless you do pre-orders and unless we get a certain number, you'll just have to pay a fee for a school visit. Because I think it's kind of damaging when we do offer our services for free, because I think it hurts other authors too. I have a friend here who, there was a big author who was coming in, and she talked to her local school and said, you guys should do a fundraiser and have her come and do a school visit. And she was like, oh, I'm just going to call her up and see if she'll do a visit for free. And this is like, a best-selling author who's used to, getting paid a certain amount. And because people are doing visits for free, they expect that this author should just do a visit for free too. So I think that it's harmful when we do visits for free too much, because I think it kind of cheapens what all authors are trying to accomplish. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So I think all authors decide how to do it. I'm a debut author, so I don't feel like I am going to ask, especially locally, I'm not going to ask for money, but I do feel like at least being able to get pre-orders makes it worthwhile for me. So we'll see. I'm trying to figure it out. It's tricky.
Come on, teachers, you'd pay $75 to have a substitute teacher come in for a day. You could pay at least that for an author to come in and entertain your children and teach them something valuable about reading.
Exactly. So anyway, but it's fun. Like I said, I love interacting with the kids. It's a fun energy. They're excited. You're excited. It's fun.